Thank you, Renu, so much. A warm welcome to all of you who've joined it. Today we have a powerhouse of talent sitting with us over here on Bollywood, on parenting, and a lot more. And quickly, let's jump into the discussion. So, to begin with you, ma'am, uh, my first question is a very generic one to you. And since you've written so much about Bollywood, India is still believed as a land of ABCD in content, astrology, Bollywood, cricket, and devotion. What do you think holds us so close to Bollywood?
So I feel that, in India, Bollywood is not just cinema, it's a part of our life. And the film stars are a part of our family. So right from the time I started working in a film magazine, which was Filmfare, many, many years ago, I would go to, a very intellectual kind of a gathering. And the first thing I would be told was, we don't read any film magazines, unfortunately. And then, dinner would start, and then the person sitting next to me would say that, have you met Amitabh Bachchan? What is he like? Then someone across the table would say, how is Shah Rukh Khan? Is he as witty? And then very soon the whole conversation would center around how many stars I've met, what I've spoken to. So that's why I say that Bollywood is a part of our lives. And so the interest in Bollywood writing, which I'm happy to see has moved beyond memoirs now and has moved into more interesting content.
That's excellent. So, writing was your profession, Bollywood happened to you, and you created books out of that. What about you? How did writing happen to you, and how did you combine that with your own ideas about life?
Writing was always my first love. Can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, so it's like in school also, I remember I would doze off during geography class or history class, but whenever the English class would go on, I don't know, something used to happen to me. My essays were always the best. I had the flair for the language. So, and then thank God in those days there was no internet. So there was no PS4, there was nothing. So we grew up on Enid Blyton and Nancy Drew, and then we graduated. So I think all of us who are children of the 70s, we grew up like that. So that was the only thing we had to do. And then, yes, of course, Bollywood was always a part of my life. Like I remember even my father, Sham Dalte, he always wanted to hear Kishore Kumar and Rafi Sahab, and then, but those days we saw good movies. Yes. We saw Guru Dutt, we saw Raj Kapoor, we knew what was socialism. So that remains, it doesn't go. Even when you grow up, you always have that at the back of your mind. So when this opportunity came to me, it just happened. I was doing journalism in Xavier's, and in those days, like I was telling her, they put up job opportunities on the board. So there was a vacancy at Magna. And when I went to Magna, I still remember my editor told me, imagine you've met a film star, and how would your conversation go with him? And I did that, and I got the job. And then there was no looking back. It becomes like a bee in the bonnet. Then you cannot get, rid of that part of you. It just remains with you. No matter what else you do in life, part of you is still Bollywood.
Absolutely. Ma'am, to you, your first few books were about villains. World was writing about heroes and heroines and larger things, and you picked up this very different kind of a topic.
Yeah, so it was Bad Man. It's the memoir of Gulshan Grover. And I don't really like writing memoirs because what more can you know about a person? If it's Amitabh Bachchan, you already know enough about him. But with Gulshan, I've been a columnist for about 10 years, written on different aspects of Bollywood. So a couple of times I would call Gulshan, and he would give me really interesting content for my column. So one day I just picked up the phone and I said, Gulshan, book kare? So he said, do you think my book will work? So I said, let me ask. So I asked Penguin, and they jumped. So it was a surprise to both of us. But once we started the book, and I've often heard people say that it's taken us 5 years or 4 years or 2 years to write a book. This book I finished in 2 months.
Wow, that's record.
And I did the interviews over 3 weeks. What happens with a memoir is that the first 7 days, everyone is very interested in telling you everything that has happened to them. And by the 8th day, they hate you. So when you call, they'll come up with various excuses like, "Aaj nahi karte hain," you know. But Gulshan, I have to say, was extremely professional. And the reason it took us 3 weeks was because in the middle he had to leave and go abroad. So he couldn't connect with me. But every day I was working there at that time. So every day between 9:30 and 10 or 10:30 we would have a conversation. Then he would go his way, I would go my way, and the book was done. And while I was doing the book, I realized that this bad man, who we just know from Ram Lakhan and all these movies, was one of the first actors who had gone to Hollywood. And he had, unfortunately, he didn't make great movies there, but he had a fascinating journey, which was that he was this top rated villain in Bollywood, and no one knew him in Hollywood. So he had to give auditions with absolute strangers and novices. And he said, you know, once I went for an audition, and a Bangladeshi or some Asian guy came to me and said, "I'm a huge fan," and he thought I was there to take the audition. He didn't realize I was auditioning for the same role. And he said, "I just ran away from that audition." So stuff like that came out, and I think Badman became a very interesting book. It was translated into Hindi, and just last week I met one publisher, a Hindi publisher, and he told me, "बहुत अच्छा book लिखा है आपने." And suddenly I became a celebrity in that room because I had written Badman. So that is the...
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what about your story of your first book? How did that happen?
I think it was just destined to happen. So it happened. They say, na, every movie has its own kismat. So I truly believe every book also has its own kismat. So I had taken my son to an art class. Those days he was young, so he would come with me. So we formed a WhatsApp group. There was another lady also with her kid. Then we got talking. She told me, "I have a WhatsApp group and all parents are part of the group. Why don't you join the group?" I said, "Fine." And in that group, there was also Dipti Patel. And we got talking, and she said, "I'm a literary agent." And then I was like, "Oh wow, even I write," and stuff like that. So we got talking. And then she said, "Then why don't you write? Why don't you write a book?" I was like, "I've never thought about it." And then I just spoke to her. I said, "Look, now that I'm raising my son, parenting is something really close to my heart. And Bollywood stars I can interview, and no one has really bothered to know how they are as parents. Everyone only knows that, you know, she wore this at that party, or she is seeing someone, and that's all they know, which is very frivolous. But there's so much more to them, and it's a myth. It's really a myth that, you know, star kids are taken care of only by nannies, and parents don't know which school they go to or which class they are in. All this is just not true. So, and I have seen stars very close and personal. Like there was this star who gave his shot, and I was supposed to do the interview in the car with him. So the moment I was in the car, he told me 1 minute. The first thing he did was he called his wife. And the first words were, "What are the kids doing?" So I'm like, they're just like us. There is no difference. And this is a part of them which is so beautiful and so real and so genuine. And people should know this part of them as well. And you will be surprised that they take a lot of care. They do much more than we do to make sure their kids lead a normal life. Like every star I've met, they are very, very particular about how the children treat the staff. They don't tolerate at all Badtamizi in any kind. So they take an extra effort that in spite of the paparazzi, in spite of the circus that happens around them, the children should be grounded, and they want well-functional, responsible adults. And they do stuff which normally people don't do. They go the extra mile. They train their staff also how to train the kids. And it's amazing. It's really amazing.
Sounds like extra pressure on them, but I'll come back to you with that question later.
Yes.
For you, ma'am, you after that, you came with paranormal stories, which is fascinating. That, you know, we are scared of ghosts. Obviously, Bollywood actors are also human beings. They would also be scared of ghosts. Paranormal stories, how did that come about? And did people really tell you true stuff about their own lives?
So the thing that I love, I was a horror film buff for years, and I grew up on the Ramsey movies. I enjoyed them, and I would ask them, I would go and I would get the video cassettes, and the video parlor library owner, he would tell me ki dar laga, and I would say nahi laga. So he would then give me another cassette and said, ye zarur, you'll get scared. And then the next day I would say, nahi dar laga. So this became a game with us. And then as I grew older, I started doing my interviews. In the course of an interview, there was a film about, a ghost film or a paranormal film. I would ask people associated with it, whether it was the actor or the director, or sometimes the technician, has something happened to you? And they would sometimes tell me stories. And then COVID happened. And during the lockdown, I thought to myself that what if I were to write a book about this? And I remember I spoke to Shantanu. I sent him a message and I said, Shantanu, would you be interested in a book like this? And Shantanu's, I would love it. And I was in the bank and we just discussed the book, and by the time I stepped out of the bank, the contract had been done. Wow. It was as simple as that. And then the stuff started, because there are 36 true stories in the book, ranging from actors Juhi Chawla, Neel Nitin Mukesh, Esha Deol, Biswajit, 20 Saal Baad, the actor. And then there are the directors like Vikram Bhatt, Bhushan Patel, and then there are technicians also, including music directors like Jeet Ganguly, Shantanu Moitro, and all the stories, believe me, are true, because it was difficult getting 36. So the first thing I would tell someone is, don't make up anything. If it's happened to you, let it happen. And I have to tell you this, that the reason we called it paranormal and not ghost stories of Bollywood, which would be a very catchy line to sell the book, is because they're not all about ghosts. Some of it is miracles. Certain shoots have just happened, like particular shoot, Kedarnath, happened because there was a force up there. Abhishek Kapoor believes that someone was looking out for him, which is why he was able to take certain shots. An actress who was on the verge of quitting the industry, she spoke to Baba's portrait in her, Baba's picture in her bedroom, and told him, Sai Baba, that you have 24 hours. And in 24 hours, if I get a role which is worth it, I'll stay, otherwise I'm leaving. And she got a role, and she went on to win the national award. So these are the stories that, and I find the book very fascinating.
That's wonderful. Back to you with the question. So are stars under a slightly higher pressure to put their kids in a better form because they believe that the kids may actually go out of control, something like that?
See, it comes with a turf. If you are a star, there will be paparazzi, there will be gossip, your children will read stuff which they shouldn't read. So yes, they are under a little more stress than normal parents go through. But the wonderful thing is they're doing a great job. In spite of all the circus around them, they're making sure that they tell their kids how to behave. They tell their kids what is safe, what is not safe. And the wonderful part is that the children, for them, the first and foremost thing are their parents. And what they say is like a bound script, at least, during the formative years. So once a foundation is strong, then the chances of the child going stray is very less. And the amazing part is all those whom I spoke to, whether it was Javed Saab or Nandita or Poman Irani, they are all just so clear that the child should be raised with middle class values, come what may. So even when you enter their house, you get that vibe. The way they speak to the staff, the way they welcome you, the way they talk, you feel like ये तो हमारी जैसे ही हैं. Actually, you feel that way.
That's wonderful.
So once I remember going to Padmini Kolhapure's house, and her mom was seated there. So I was like, "Your mom?" She was like, "Why?" "Because I'm wearing this nightie." So I was like, "Oh my God." And then she was so sweet. Then she spoke to me. I used to work in Air India on the ground, and then I would take holidays. for whatever reasons, and then I had to escort Padmini for the shootings, and anyway I was in the airport, so I would get caught. So when you speak to them, you realize they're just like us, but unfortunately they have more pressure on them to make sure their kids grow up to be responsible and well-functional adults, but they manage, somehow they do.
Excellent. Now that we have Shantanu back on stage, I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bollywood is always a smashing affair.
Yes. You did actually smash a lot of things just before the session.
I smashed into a tree.
Yes. So with your smashing entry, you also deal with a lot of Bollywood literature, right?
Yeah.
So how is the Bollywood literature shaping up in today's publishing world?
Am I audible?
Yes, you're right.
See, I have seen the writing on Bollywood actually evolve over the years, and given my interest in cinema, I think I've been involved very much with it. I've seen it grow from a stage where an author was writing on Mother India and Pyasa in terms of x-axis and y-axis. Character development on x-axis, plot development on y-axis, and even for a film lover like me, the book had lost me. It had no resonance with me. So, and I wanted writing on cinema that was interesting but accessible. I think Anupama Chopra's book on Sholay broke through the clutter, and then I was fortunate enough to come across a series of books, first at Penguin, and then when I got to Harper and we did this whole series of books. Very fortunate that one of my first acquisitions, independent acquisitions, was this book on R.D. Burman by Balaji and Anirudh, and it went on to win the national award. It was everything that I wanted in a film book. It was accessible, it was written in simple language without being simplistic, and it actually addressed the subject in a manner, it went behind the scenes to talk to R.D. Burman's technicians, his musicians, people who had worked with him, and actually did that. So that set the ball rolling. The next year we did a big book on the pictorial history of black and white cinema in India. That again won the national award, and it sort of took off from there. Interestingly, the first 8 years of my publishing on cinema, I was publishing primarily first-time authors, Balaji Anirudh on R.D. Burman, Akshay Manwani on Sahir Ludhianvi, and these were books that were not considered to be saleable. Imagine in 2010 actually proposing a book on Sahir Ludhianvi and being told, okay, people were asking who Sahir Ludhianvi was. He's the guy who died in 1980. Where's the resonance? Even for R.D. Burman for that matter, today we know so much. At that point of time when I proposed the book in 2009-10, it came out. The thing was, yaar, wo gaane to sunte hain, but what about a book? I said, you have to take that leap of faith, in the sense that here is a man whose music is informing jingles, whose work is actually getting translated into movie titles. Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. Everything was R.D. Burman's music was generating so much. So, for the first 8 years, a lot of these first-time authors happened, and it was one of the brightest. In fact, at that point of time, Roshmila and I actually started working on an idea which never materialized, because we'll come to that. That's one of the lovely stories of Bollywood. Writing Bollywood has those aspects, and you should actually talk about that. It's only in 2016 when Rishi Kapoor happened and the whole thing exploded. People, by that time, of course, the body of work that HarperCollins had bought out had resulted in, a Nasreen Munni Kabir approaching, saying that would you like to do a conversation book with Zakir Hussain, or Vidhu Vinod Chopra approaching for, or Ramesh Sippy being put in touch through somebody else who said, okay, this is the list to go to. But unfortunately, Rishi Kapoor did very well, wonderfully entertaining narrative. If an autobiography or a biography has to be done, it has to be done in that way, where he's very candid. I paid money to win the Filmfare Award. I met Dawood Ibrahim. It was like quotable quotes right through those 300 pages. Subsequently, however, what happened was the whole publishing world got stuck in the tyranny of celebrity memoirs. Most of them are very vapid, very banal PR exercises. You know, like when somebody is talking about 7 mistakes of my life in a book, and he does not talk about the one mistake everybody knows about, you know, and he does not own up to that. I don't see the point of a biography like that, of an autobiography like that. You know, it just ends up being a PR exercise. Good books have come out. Vidhu Vinod Chopra's conversation with Abhijat Joshi, which again Nasreen Munni Kabir put together, I did it, was again so full of insights, you know, idiosyncrasies of the man, his total disregard of anything, having the balls to actually stand on stage at the National Film Award with the President of India and refusing to get off the pedestal unless he's paid in cash for the award because he does not trust the government of India to send him the check. You know, can you imagine the Home Minister, the President, and he says, "Sir, नहीं मैं तब तक नहीं उतरूँगा जब तक आप मुझे वो पैसे कैश में नहीं देते। मैंने ये 200 रुपए की शर्ट खरीद के 400 रुपए का टिकट देके
Vidhu Vinod Chopra, is it?
Vidhu Vinod Chopra. I've travelled by train. I have borrowed money for this shirt and pant. I am not getting off this stage until I am given the money in cash because I don't trust the government of India to send me the check." So these are the stories.
But did he get it? Quick question. Did he get the money in cash?
Yes. LK Advani was on stage, was the Home Minister at that time, and LK Advani actually upbraided him. ये तुम्हारी तमीज़ है, President के सामने ये बोल रहे हो, तुम मुझसे and he actually had to you know, like said मुझे कल ऑफिस में मिलो. तो he said मुझे आप किसी से अपने सेक्रेटरी से बोलिए मुझे आने देगा ऑफिस में. फिर मैं, and he actually got down, went next day to meet Advani ji. And Advani ji scolded him. Is this a generation you are, you know, is this a generation of people who don't trust, who can say, "Sir, kya karu?" You know, like, and these are stories that make a book. You know, a Rishi Kapoor actually owning up to paying 30,000 rupee for a Filmfare Award, Best Actor, makes a story. You know, not okay. The kind of stuff I mentioned about. 7 mistakes without the one mistake, you know. So, you know,
We'll get to that. Absolutely. Roshmila, now, since it's now mentioned, tell us the story of the book that never happened.
Okay, I won't get into names because this is a legendary actor.
That the audience will guess. We'll play a guessing game.
Who's still there. So I remember Shantanu, and Shantanu never tires of telling me what happened to that book. Whenever we meet, he always says, "What happened to that one?" So I was told before I took up this project that 4 or 5 journalists have gone to him and he's thrown them out after a while. So, "Are you sure?" I said, "Okay, I'll go. I'll take this challenge." So I went to him. I think I've written 9 chapters, which is 3/4 of the book because those are long chapters, 4,500 words. I went back to him. By then he was on bed, not bedridden, but he was literally speaking to me from the bed. So I told him, "Sir, now what do you want to read it?" He said, "No, I can't read it. You have to come every day and you have to read it out to me." So I said, "Okay." So before going to work, I would go to his house. I started reading out these chapters. He would make very minor changes and he would say, so we reached the 7th chapter. After that he said, "ये 7 chapter तुमने कितने महीने में लिखे?" So I said, 7 months.
And which is very long time. Today
Which
there
is
are
very long time.
authors submit a manuscript within 3 months and want it published in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know,
So but this man, he was also giving me time like once in a month and all that. So he said, "Do you know, I have made each film of mine, I've never made a film in less than 7 years. And you're telling me you're going to finish my book in 7 months. So I said, "But sir, you have any problem with the chapters I've written?" He said, "नहीं, बहुत अच्छा लिखा है तुमने. Let's go back to chapter 1. So I said, "But what am I supposed to add to it?" He said, "That I don't know. But you have to write again. And so we'll go through this process." So I said, "For 7 years." So he said, "देखते 5 साल तक तो देखते हैं." So I didn't honestly have the patience. So I told him, a couple of times I told him, let's finish it. It's only 3 or 4 more chapters left. And he was very fond of me. He's still very fond of me. So whenever I would call him for any of my columns, he would speak to me, he would give me a very interesting anecdote, and at the end of each conversation I would say, sir, book, and he would disconnect the line. So I've tried through various people, including his wife and son, to get that book published, but it's not happened, and no other book has come out on this person. And whatever he's told me, to date, has never been published before, and it would make for a fascinating.
So we have an actor who is bedridden, has a wife and a son.
Yes.
Audience,
Two
you can
sons.
guess.
Is the
Two
Dada
sons.
Saheb Phalke Award winner.
Yes.
Dada
and
Saheb
he's-
Phalke.
He's a Dada Saheb Phalke Award. I remember when he won that, I told him, sir, this is the best time to come up with a book. Let's do it. Thumb. Disconnect.
Okay, great. So we'll try the guessing game a little later. Rashmi, from your experience with these parents, do you remember any anecdotes which stayed with you, or a parent's reaction which you found was different from the others in terms of the stars?
Actually, every parent had something to tell which was quite enriching. Like I remember Javed Saab saying that Farhan just came home and उसने अपनी बैग भी नीचे नहीं रखा, and suddenly he asked me, "Pa, are we Muslims?" So he didn't know he was a Muslim till someone spoke about it in school. So Javed Saab was so particular that he would not tell his kids anything about religion at all, because he himself is an atheist. And then Farhan kept saying कि अगर मैं ऐसा करूँगा तो God को अच्छा नहीं लगेगा. So Javed Saab said, now if I tell him there is no God, if he goes to school and his teachers and his friends tell him there is a God, so he will be traumatized, and for a child that's not good. So he handled it very well, and he said, हाँ God को ये सब चीज़ें पसंद नहीं, and he let it be at that. So every parent has to be so particular. And Javed Saab always says, just like you cannot force religion on your kids, you cannot force them to be atheists also. So what to tell a kid, when to tell a kid, when he has the capacity to understand, it's a skill, and it takes a lot of maturity. And something that Archana Puran Singh said also made a lot of difference to me. Her son was very passionate about football, and because of his injury he couldn't pursue his passion, and how she got him into art of living and how spirituality helped him, because that phase was so trying. Sometimes he would be very mature and sometimes he would just lose it. So to see your kid through that phase is very trying for a parent. So for how should a parent handhold the child? So this book is filled with anecdotes, raising stars.
So is
Every
Farhan a
parent-
believer or atheist now?
He's atheist.
He's an atheist. So Javed Saab did succeed in what he wanted to do.
Javed Saab succeeds in whatever he wants to do.
Okay. Difficult question for you, Shantanu. We've heard that these stars get astronomical advances. Is that true? Can you throw some light on this?
Unfortunately, yes.
Advances for the books, not for the films. The books.
No, the books. And films, I am not bothered about advances. They can get all the money they want. But books is a problem because it creates a lot of issues with other books, And I'll just give you one example again without naming names. There was this huge star that we were quoting at that point of time. Quoting is the word because you have to be actually quoting them with a lot of things. And I had started off with a nominal amount. Given that we had published Rishi Kapoor at a certain sum of money, I had kept it well within that limit.
Nominal for us, astronomical for the general public. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like astronomical, nominal for the stars. Very nominal. Like that's the kind of money without which even a lot of our general authors don't write. So, and by the time the negotiations were going, other publishers got involved. This sum of money rose to 40 lakhs. At which stage I said, no, please, let's not get into this, because 40 lakhs will mean the kind of copies that need to be sold, it's not a sustainable book anymore. You know, like Rishi Kapoor, we had published at almost 1/4 of that cost. So it does not. So obviously, then, you know, with publishers getting more and more starstruck, you know, and you can imagine how much of a difference when I first published R.D. Burman, a book that continues to sell even now and has got so much going for it. We paid the authors, 2 authors, we paid a princely sum of 40,000 rupees. Of course, 10 years back, 16 years back, but 40,000 rupees. And here we're talking about 40 lakhs for a book. And by the time the book was closed, the advance stood at 75 lakhs, with 45 lakhs being payable on signature, which is unheard of. You know, normally jo rate hota hai, it's one third on signature, on submission. 75 lakh with 45 lakh payable on signature and an 18% royalty. As Dipankar will tell you, that's, you know,
that's blasphemy. No money, nobody can make money on that.
Yeah. And before we signed the contract, 8 of us from the publishing house actually had to visit his office, his place, and give a marketing presentation, which means 8 flights to and from Delhi, between Delhi and Bombay, all the stay expenses. You can imagine already the kind of money being sunk into a project. It's, I think, 2017, 7 years, almost 7 years now, not a line of the book has been written. And I don't think it's ever going to happen. I know the star. It's never going to happen. If it happens, it will be a miracle of sorts, you know. So, of course, yes, we have taken the bottom out of, you know, we've made it very unsustainable for regular authors, you know, like and very frankly, writing on cinema, as Roshmila will also tell you, she has done Batman. We'll talk about Batman, which is another experience.
Spoken about Batman actually already before you came in.
I know, like, we are a cinema mad country. We love our cinema like anything, but I don't think we like to read about cinema. That's the feedback I get every time one proposes a book on cinema that's not a vapid star bio, authorized star bio, is who will read, you know. And it's a thing I've heard from R.D. Burman, from Sahir, from everything. So, you know, under those circumstances, high advances kill the book.
Absolutely.
Kill the book, you know, like, and if we have, and actually when this thing happened on 75 lakh, Rishi Kapoor ji actually called me one day, and he had done immensely on the book. You know, he was the book's champion. Like, we ended up selling 70,000 copy of the book. And he drove it like mad. He was like, Shantanu, come to this festival. They have agreed to take 500 copies of the book. Shantanu, come to Kapil Sharma show. So he calls me and says, Shantanu, यार इसका ऐसा इतना एफर्ट किया है, इसका ज़रा रॉयल्टी बढ़ा दे अभी, मतलब from retrospect effect, you know, just raise the royalty. And I took it to the people, and they said, no, yeah, like, try and explain that 10% is the standard royalty and all of that. And at that point of time, you know, he was in conversation with the star we were proposing. And, you know, I told Rishi Kapoor ji, you know, sir, aisa bol rahe hain. And in his very colorful language, he's always colorful in his language. And he said, Abhay, तू मुझे ये समझ रहा है क्या, you know, मैं उससे अभी बात कर रहा हूँ, तूने इतना पेमेंट कर दिया उसको. Now what to say? What do I say to anybody? You know, I do not have anything to say to Rishi Kapoor after that. What do I say to Roshmila? You know, when she says, okay, this is not enough. I know it is not enough money, and given the kind of money we were paying to stars.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have that side as well of the entire Bollywood industry writing for books. But we have just 5 minutes left before I come back to your last closing comments. Any questions from the audience? Anybody with a question? Raise your hands. We have a volunteer coming to you with his mic, if at all. Okay. Last question to all the panelists over here. Rashmila, Rashmi, Shantanu, where does Bollywood literature go from here forward? What next in Bollywood literature?
I would say that enough of celebrity bios, unless the celebrity is willing to open up on things that they've never spoken before, because we have a very strong mainstream Bollywood writing going on in mainstream newspapers. So whatever we have written, bring that into a book. Like Rashmi has done, explore other avenues. I'm sure that there are readers out there who are willing to know more about the people behind the stars. So try to explore other avenues. And I entreat all of you that if you want books on Bollywood, please buy copies. They're only 200 rupees. 200 rupees में कभी भी वड़ा पाव और चाय के लिए लोग चले जाते हैं. तो एक किताब, just buy it. It'll help
Buy and
us.
gift. So you have Christmas
Yeah.
coming. Go buy your copies from the Express
Yes.
bookstore outside and gift it to your friends and family. They
Like-
will love it.
Like when my child was growing up, I always bought books for birthday parties, and finally she came and told me, Mama, no one likes your presents. So I said, I don't care. That's all they are going to get. So, and it continues, the
Great.
tradition.
Yes.
I am optimistic. I think there will always be a market for Bollywood, for film stars, because not only aspirationally people want to be like them, but there is something about them. The glamour will never go. And where biographies are concerned, I think a lot depends on the personality of the person. Like Rishi ji was very candid, and he wore his heart on his sleeves, and he did not mince words, and sometimes very colorful words also, as he would tell you. But someone like, say, Amitabh Bachchan, he's very guarded all the time. So if someone told me, here are two biographies, one is of Rishi Kapoor and one is of Amitabh Bachchan, I would say I don't want to waste my money on Mr. Bachchan because you can't elicit anything out of him.
That's good.
I would say I don't mind spending, not just 400, but I'll spend, say, 600. But give me a book on Rishi. So I think we will survive, we will flourish.
Brilliant.
Right.
Absolutely. Shantanu.
I think yes, I'd like to do what Roshmila has done with the spooked book.
Yes, that's
Bollywood
lovely.
being
That's brilliant.
spooked. We are in talks about Bollywood and food. That's an interesting subject to. I'd really like cinema-oriented fiction. We don't have. In fact, one of the panelists today was supposed to be Priyanka Sinha Jha, whose book called Bollywood Folk Tales, which is a series of stories, fictional stories around cinema characters. And we don't actually have not explored that genre.
Cinema characters.
Yeah, like characters dealing in cinema. Like these are an actor, a star.
But not a story about Rishi Kapoor. A fictional story about Rishi Kapoor.
This is a fiction. If you read between the lines, you'll know. Okay, this is the story you are talking about.
I see.
An award-winning director who is having his comeuppance, having to direct a Ramsey kind of film.
I see.
So we don't have. I can only think of Krishna Shastri's Jump Cut, set in the cinema industry. Brilliant film on plagiarism and copying and everything that goes on. And Gajra Kotari's Once Upon a Star.
And we have Bollywood music, the one we discussed yesterday.
Yeah.
Bollywood Odessi.
Yeah. So like we don't have fiction around cinema much. I think that's something we really
Great. That's very optimistic. As the panel is closing on good, I hope you'll all buy these Bollywood books from the bookstore outside and give them out. Thank you very much, panelists, and thank you, Shantanu, for joining us even after your smashing entry. Renu, over to you.